bad guy character in professional wrestling.
Rev, when's the last time you got laid?
French toast is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Like, we can see that you don't have pants on.
Can we tell the truth about Dusty sooner or later?
Bro,
like-
less people wanted that than are currently watching our stream.
And you know Vince, and you still think, are these true? It's like...
Welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mark It Down podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined tonight, this morning, it depends where you are in the world at the moment, by James Asante, producer boy Eric Asante in the background, and we are here to review New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Dynasty. This was a show. It combined both New Japan talent with AEW talent, Ring of Honor talent, Stardom talent, and CMLL talent. 5 companies, which is really only 3 companies because 2 of them are owned by the same people, on one card. Major show. James, I haven't watched New Japan in a while, but this was on. It started at 11, which for me is a reasonable hour. I'm glad I stood up and watched it.
I was so excited for an 11 o'clock start time. I was like, man, we'll be done by 2. It'll be fine. It'll be great. And like 2:30, 3 o'clock, I was like, fuck.
I knew it was going to go long. I wasn't really sure how long, but I feel like
it went just as long as last night.
Yeah. So did last night end at around 3:15? Because I feel like that
started at 3 a.m. last night.
Oh, okay. But it went just as long.
Yeah, I'd say it was around 7:30 that it was done.
Okay. God bless you for doing it in the morning.
I'm so I have been potting all week. Producer boy definitely stepped up on Friday with his SmackDown live coverage. That was great.
I saw that in the morning. I was like, wait, what?
I've done Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm taking Sunday off. I'm not doing New Year's Dash.
Technically, this is Sunday.
Yeah, technically this is Sunday, but I'm not doing New Year's Dash, but we're doing Monday Night Raw for the Netflix premiere. So I'm just like, all I've been doing is wrestling this week. Like, it's wrestling and sleep because I've been sick. So but it's been good. I very much enjoyed Wrestle Kingdom last night. I'm glad that so many people responded positively to Wrestle Kingdom last night. And I enjoyed Wrestle Dynasty tonight. I know that there was some confusion. I know that there were some issues with people who didn't quite grasp what this was, because for the last several years, Wrestle Kingdom, which is New Japan's, for lack of a better term, their WrestleMania. They're all in. Wrestle Kingdom has been 2 nights, but we've gone back to 1 night for Wrestle Kingdom, thank God. And now they decided to do Wrestle Dynasty. And some people, even myself, for like simplicity's sake, I compared it to, say, AEW's Forbidden Door. But realistically, this is something much, much bigger, in my opinion. Forbidden Door is a 2-show cross promotion. It's AEW and New Japan. There were a lot more moving parts to this show. Like you mentioned all the companies, and yeah, we could joke about the fact that Tony Khan owns 2 of them, Bushiroad owns 2 of them, but no matter what, there are a lot of moving parts here, and that is very impressive because I think everybody got a lot of representation tonight. So very big show from New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'd argue, if you're, and we were having this discussion with producer boy behind the scenes. He said that tonight had a better card than yesterday's card. And as a North American viewer who isn't familiar with New Japan, that's a very fair assessment. Tonight had Kenny Omega. Tonight had the Young Bucks. Tonight had Ricochet. Tonight had Brody King. Tonight had Jack Perry. Claudio Castagnoli. But as a North American viewer, that's huge. What a card. what a card. Wow, I want to watch that New Japan AEW card. But if you're a Japanese viewer, yesterday was obviously the bigger show. So a lot of appeal across both nights for lots of different fans. And I'm tired, man. I can only imagine that they're tired because we had guys wrestling both nights. Zack Sabre Jr., I think, did over an hour and a half of wrestling in these last 2 nights. I don't know how long tonight went.
I can check if you give me a second. I'm seeing 20 minutes and 57 seconds.
So he went over an hour. He went over an hour over 2 nights. That's a lot of main event time. That's Roman Reigns time, like that's how.
Yeah, just one of his matches.
So just bravo to everybody in New Japan. Bravo to everybody from AEW, CMLL, Stardom, Ring of Honor. Just great show and a great show of effort from these teams.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned there was 5 companies. Technically, there was a 6th one kind of thrown in there because Mina Shirakawa did defend the RevPro championship.
That's true.
So there's a lot of
true.
moving parts here, as you said. But since it is like 3:45 in the morning, let's get into the show. I do want to briefly touch upon the pre-show, even though, James, I don't think you watched it. Neither did I. But I do want to briefly say that Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara were able to defend their Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships against House of Torture. Dustin sprayed some whiskey into somebody's eyes before hitting the Final Reckoning, and then Sammy hit a senton, and Dustin got the pinfall. But more importantly, and I don't know if you saw this, James, in the International Women's Cup 4-way, Athena took her first loss in 2 years.
I know.
As after she hit an O-face on Willow, was it Thekla? I think I'm saying that right. Pulled the referee out of the ring to break up the pinfall, and as she was distracting the referee, that allowed competitor Momo Watanabe to come in and just cave Athena's skull in with a baseball bat and pick up the win to win that International Women's Cup. So, first of all, as somebody who's been hit in the head with a baseball bat, ow. Like, I don't even care if that thing was gimmick. Watanabe fucking laid that in there. It was 100% worth being in the Tokyo Dome because I grew up knowing the Tokyo Dome as a baseball stadium, not as a wrestling stadium. But I do briefly want your opinion, James, on the fact that Athena lost just because it's been so long, and you are our resident Athena stan here. So I was curious your thoughts on it.
I think obviously this is a very protected match because it is it's a fatal 4-way. It's also protected in the sense that it's not her home promotion, and it's protected because of shenanigans. So is it ideal that we see Athena taking an L? No, it's not ideal, but at the same time, it's not something that's really going to hurt her. I would be shocked if it's referenced on Ring of Honor TV. I would say AEW TV, but we know she's banned from there. So I would be shocked if it's referenced on Ring of Honor TV. But good showing. Momo getting a big win, only 24 years old, and getting a huge name recognition win over Athena and over Willow Nightingale. So if you're a North American viewer and you're watching Momo for the first time, you're recognized this is a big name. This is a big win.
Yeah, and I do want to shout out the 4th member of that match, Persephone from CMLL. I don't want to ignore her. I do actually want to go and watch that back. I saw the last couple of minutes of it. It looked really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised. Willow and Athena always bring it, and these other 2 women seem very good. So that's something I might have to go back and take a look at just because I didn't realize it was on, and I did actually want to see it.
It's been a good night. It's been a good 2 nights for women's wrestling in New Japan. Yesterday, the women, Zumi and Awatani, they had a sprint of a match, and they killed it. in such a short amount of time. And of course, we also had on the main card, Mercedes and Mina. So just good showing from the women across these nights, and very happy that they're getting representation in a company that was famously known for not giving them, for not even having a women's division once upon a time. So
yeah,
cool.
New Japan has come a long way in that regard, especially now that they're doing more stuff with Stardom and have added the New Japan Strong division to their ranks. So good for them, and it's really creating a lot of exposure for really a lot of great female wrestlers.
Oh yeah.
But all right, let's keep it rolling as we started with our first match of the evening, which is an 8-man Lucha Gauntlet match between Hechicero, Kosei Fujita, Soberano Jr., Master Wato, Taiji
Ishimori.
I was getting there.
Yeah, you
Máscara, Dorada, Titán, and El Desperado.
New junior champion, El Desperado. He won the belt last night in a very unfortunate situation. Still wishing the best to Doki, but congratulations to our new junior heavyweight champion, El Desperado.
Yep. This match ended when good old Bone Soldier himself ended up stealing a win, sneak pinning Despy. I missed who he stole it from. Somebody had Despy in a submission.
It was Kosei Fujita.
Thank you. From Fujita, and freaking he just snuck in and grabbed it. This was fun. Like, it was just a good showcase for all these guys. All the luchadors are great. I love the spot in the beginning, James, or not the beginning, but it was towards the middle of the match when Desperado was coming out with his brand new title, and everyone's just decided that they wanted a piece of him. They all left the ring and met him at the ramp, just started kicking the crap out of him before bringing him back in, and it basically took him out for the next 10 minutes, which, considering the fact he was pulling back to back, it's a good way to get out of it. But just a fun match to start.
Truth be told, he barely worked last night, given the nature of the match. I'm not sure if you saw or heard what happened, but his match got cut short very quickly due to injury, where Doki took a nasty fall to the outside, landing really hard on his elbow, and they had to call the match. So Despy even being in this match, because none of the performers were announced ahead of time. Everybody that was in this match was a surprise if you're a viewer. So the fact that Despy got a second shot at having a good weekend, that's great. Him taking the pin and losing to Ishimori is surprising. I guess they're setting up for a feud there for Ishimori to challenge for the junior heavyweight title. And that's probably a great move. But just really surprising to see the champion lose a day later, especially given the nature of how he won it. This matchup, even commentary kind of said it, was very similar to the AEW Casino Gauntlet match.
Yeah, that's how I figured it. Well,
this could have just been two people. It could have been the first two opponents, and then maybe that would have been it. But they went the distance. All 8 men were in the matchup, and everybody had a good spot. Master Wato definitely getting a moment to himself after the humiliation of last night, getting spray painted by the House of Torture. Máscara Dorada, we all know him. That's Grand Metalik.
Yeah. I knew he looked familiar.
Happy that he had a big moment here. Hechicero has been entertaining. If you're an AEW fan, this is not the first time you're seeing him. So really happy that he got to have a big moment. And Fujita, who won one half of the junior tag team titles last night, he might have gotten screwed tonight, but hey, he's still walking out the weekend as a champion. So basically everybody had something to be happy with coming out of this weekend if you're if you're one of these performers.
Yeah, I think everyone looked really good in this match. Even Despy, even though he took the pin, but like you said, it looked to me like they were trying to set up something between the two of them going forward. I thought Titán was really over. They mentioned as he came out that he was like the luchador bridge between New Japan and CMLL, and he was pretty over with the crowd. So I thought he had a really good showing. And a lot of the younger guys, I thought, did a good job getting over. At least I'm going a little bit off of what commentary is telling me, depending on like who they are and how young they are and stuff like that. Because I believe the other guy was Soberano, who they were like, oh, these two dudes are like 20 something, young 20s, and they're the future of Lucha Libre. So I think they all did a great job getting themselves over. New Japan does a good job of setting up a match for their juniors title in the future, and just fun stuff all around. Get going.
I just got a fuck you message from David. I don't know why.
He tried to call me twice, and I declined it. And I was like, "I'm doing the pod, New Japan." And he goes, "That's okay." And now he's mad at you.
I don't know what I did.
You took me away from him at 4:45 in the morning.
Clearly.
Or 4:50 in the morning. Excuse me. Now he's mad. Sorry, D. I'll wrap this up as quick as possible, and I'll call you back. All right. After this match, we went to our 5-minute exhibition between the ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and the returning Katsuyori Shibata. Now, obviously, there's a whole lot of history here. These two men and Shibata and New Japan. There's all the history of the two of them coming up together. I always forget Shibata is fucking 45 years old because he looks like he's 20 still.
Great shape, just great maintenance. God bless him.
Look, I love Tanahashi, but if you compare the two of them, Tanahashi's starting to look almost 50. Like, he's still in great shape, but his knees make him look like he's almost 50.
Tanahashi wrestling what will be his last year as a professional wrestler. He looks it, as opposed to Shibata, who, if you told me he's going to go another 15 years, I'd buy it. Yeah. I'd believe it.
Honestly, like, I knew the story with everything with Shibata and him getting injured and the brain surgery and everything. I thought that happened in, like, his very, like, early 20s, and then he came back.
Yeah.
And, like, he's like, oh, it's like he's, like, maybe, like, 32 or something, and he's finally back after. No, he was, like, 40 when he came back.
This is the man who had a career.
Yeah.
This is the man who had a full career.
That started in 99. Like, I was 6 when this dude made his debut. Anyway, the other drama that happened with all of this is the last time Shibata was in New Japan, he was having another one of these exhibitions, and which they wildly mentioned on commentary.
I was shocked that they, like, buried him. It's like, he last time he was here, he went off book, he did his own thing, and he hasn't been asked back since. But hey, when you're friends with Tanahashi, I was like, what the fuck are you saying right now?
They said verbatim he went into business for himself.
I could not believe it.
No, that is what happened.
Of course. But why do you acknowledge it?
That was the crazy part.
Like, that felt like New Japan was trying to get one up, and it's like, they wanted the world to know he's only back because he's Tanahashi's friend and rival. And they talked about it going into tonight. Shibata was up 18-15 career against Tanahashi. So it's long storied rivalry near the end of Tanahashi's career. This definitely felt like a gift to Tanahashi that we got it. And granted, I'm happy. I had fucking chills last night as I was watching Wrestle Kingdom, and Shibata came back wearing an AEW hoodie, making the save against House of Torture. I was like, never thought this was happening again. But very happy. If this is Shibata's last appearance ever in New Japan, what a way to go. And to be part of Tanahashi's goodbye tour, just beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go out with a 5-minute, let's just chop the shit out of each other match, not terrible. But at the end of it, Shibata was kind of, signaling that he wanted one more. And considering that they mentioned on commentary that they won't clear Shibata, but AEW has cleared Shibata, and there is a New Japan AEW pay-per-view every year, and it's going to be in Wembley. Maybe one more?
You will not hear a complaint from me. I love Shibata. He's shown that he could still go. I don't blame New Japan for not clearing him. That's why this match is what it was. It was an exhibition. It was a special exhibition matchup. It wasn't a full-on matchup. and I'm sure that was by design. So I bring it on, Forbidden Door. Why not? Right? I don't know who will wrestle. I have no clue, but why not?
Yeah, one more Forbidden Door. I'm getting that started. I like it. I think it'll be great. But this was only 5 minutes, and we've talked more about it for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Actually, I did want to ask you really quickly. Yeah. The match Shibata went into business for himself for. Which one was it? Because I saw the one he fought against Zack Sabre Jr.
It was
that was awesome.
It was against Ren Narita, who's
I missed that.
A young talent in his own right, and he had a match last night at Wrestle Kingdom. So it's just it put Ren in a bad position because
how do you say no to Shibata, but you're going to get in trouble?
Yeah. So it was rough, and quite frankly, again, I'll say it again. I don't blame New Japan for having an issue with Shibata, but I'm glad that everyone was able to put all that aside for tonight to happen.
Yeah, and this almost feels like almost like a test for Shibata. Maybe it's like, hey, we're going to put you back in here, Shibata. It's going to be an exhibition though, because if he went again and tried to wrestle him for real again, I think there would have been major problems. But hopefully he regained some trust, and maybe we can get an actual match between the two of them before Tanahashi hangs them up. All right, moving on to that, we went to our our next women's match for the evening, as we had a winner-take-all match for the New Japan Strong Women's Championship and the Undisputed British Women's Championship from over in RevPro, as Mina Shirakawa faced off against Mercedes Moné. This was a pretty good match. Mercedes has been on fire facing New Japan talent recently. And Mina actually dominated most of this, working over Moné's knees the entire match. But Mercedes was continually able to resist and eventually escape figure four attempts from Mina, eventually hitting a Moné maker for the win. That now gives Mercedes 3 titles and 4 belts total, because I guess the RevPro Undisputed is 2 belts. And she is now going to be absolutely insufferable. But dude, I like this match a lot. I think my one critique is Mercedes had her knees worked over the entire match and then somehow forgot that she had other body parts to use as weapons, because every offensive thing she hit outside of the 3 amigos were knee strikes and meteoras. I get the storytelling of this, but like, seriously, did she just forget how to wrestle there for like 20 minutes? It was a little bit confusing.
It's a bit of a bummer that she kind of no-sold the injury stuff, especially not injury, but the work done to the knees.
It wasn't so much no-selling. Like, every time she hit a knee move, she clearly sold it. It's just, how do you keep hitting them and then keep selling? At a certain point, you're going to break your patella.
I don't know if you've noticed how much of her offense just naturally uses her knees.
Well, it was way more obvious tonight.
Yeah. I think both women did great. I felt bad for them a little bit because the crowd, I don't think, was there for the first half of the match. I think they came together for the ending, for the finish, but the crowd wasn't super alive, super awake for them. Mercedes, it's funny because Mercedes had a big like video package on Dynamite, on AEW Dynamite, either this last week or 2 weeks ago, and it highlighted all of her like accomplishments in 2024. One of them was like she had like the 6th best women's match, and I think it was a match against Anna Jay, and then she had the best women's match of the year, and it was the New Japan show in Long Beach.
Yes,
and it struck a chord with me that it's like, wow, AEW is really highlighting the fact that Mercedes' best match wasn't in AEW, but it was for New Japan. And I think I'd argue that this match would be on that list. If this happened 2 weeks ago or a week ago in December, this would be part of like her great 2024. And I don't know if it's just the Joshis. I don't know if it's that these women in Japan are matching her style a lot better, but she just feels a lot more comfortable in a Japanese ring than she does in an American ring nowadays. And no shade, because I think she's great in AEW as well. But there is a comfortability, there is a natural flow that I think is there in Japan, whether it be Stardom or New Japan, that you're just not getting anywhere else from her. So I thought, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, I agreed with you up until the Statlander matches.
Yeah.
And now recently, I think she started to find a flow in AEW, not just with Statlander, because she has put on some other matches with some other good matches, with some AEW talent. Obviously, she's put on some other matches too, but she's put good matches with AEW talent. So I think she was definitely more comfortable in New Japan and in Stardom to start with after she left WWE, and she clearly still is more comfortable there for whatever reason. But I think she's found her footing, so to speak, in AEW, and hopefully she continues to put on some bangers. And hey, Tony, if that's what's going to happen, in Japan, maybe, throw her Rio or Yuka Sakazaki or somebody to bring some of that over to your ring as well, because clearly Mercedes is just going to put on bangers when she faces off against Joshi talent.
We've gotten Mercedes versus Shida already, right?
Yes, we did. And it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. The thing with Shida is I feel like she has such long layoffs that I don't know if she's wrestling during those layoffs, because I know she does a lot of other stuff. So sometimes she comes back and she is blowing my mind the way she used to when she was champ. And then sometimes you could tell she's a half a step off.
Yeah.
And I say this as the biggest Shida mark on the pod. Sometimes you could just tell. And it was one of those where they just didn't really click.
I get you.
And maybe that's just because Shida has adjusted so well to AEW.
She lost her Joshiness.
Yeah, she lost a little bit of the Joshi. Who knows? But I do think that Tony should try to bring some of the regular Joshi talent that he has on AEW and put them up against Mercedes, because, like I said, she clearly does great against them.
I hear you. I respect that. You're not wrong. I just want Mercedes versus Athena.
Yeah, at some point.
That's all. I don't really care about anything else.
Did we ever get Sasha against Ember Moon?
That's a great question. I don't know. I'll look that up while we head over to the next part. But
Well, I did. Before you look it up, I did want to ask, because I was a little surprised that Mina did lose, just because now Mercedes has to go defend that RevPro title. So, I guess you can just defend it in Strong, but that was the more surprising thing to me, that RevPro was like, yeah, give Mercedes our title. I know it gives them a lot of sorry to cut you off again. It gives them a lot of exposure, but is she going to England anytime soon?
I don't know what she's booked for. Realistically, though, she doesn't necessarily need to lose it to a RevPro talent. She could lose it to somebody else who then could do that tour for her.
Yeah.
Like Kenny lost the TNA Impact titles to Christian, So you could definitely see that happening, and it could help lead to the downfall of Mercedes Moné, because she's definitely in belt collector mode right now.
Yep.
And I could see her losing the Rev Pro. I could see her losing the New Japan Strong title.
Maybe even at the same time if they want to run that type of match again.
We saw it 2 nights in a row that New Japan and AEW had titles on the line in the same matchup with the AEW International title and the Never Openweight title. So who knows? But Mercedes is, you kind of think she probably wishes Camille was still around to carry all the belts for her.
Kenny carried all 4.
When he was wrestling, yes. But there was also times that he was straight up just having Don
and the brothers,
and Don carrying it for him. So it gets tiring. It gets very tiring.
I can imagine. Those belts are heavy. We've held a few of the AEW belts. They're very heavy.
They are.
I don't know. I think it's going to look really cool. Maybe she'll just have a wagon, or she's rich. She should just hire a bunch of people to carry them around for her.
I would pay good money. Good money. Have them bring in Reggie from WWE. Remember Reggie?
Good old Reggie.
And he just carries her shit around. I think that'd be perfect.
I know a butler who's probably looking for a job at the moment. His former employer retired, but who knows? Maybe she'll come back. Let's keep things rolling here. As we stick with some AEW talent, is Brody King faced off against David Finlay. First of all, bark. Second of all, Finlay lost his IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship last night, so this was a big deal for him. He needed to pick up a win after that loss. And this was an absolute slobber knocker.
Oh, yeah. For someone who is not a big, meaty man, David Finlay wrestles like one.
Yeah, this felt like a big, meaty men slapping meat match.
Yeah, and he was as somebody who's been following David Finlay for years in different iterations, like pre-Bullet Club, part of Fin Juice with Juice Robinson, and
unlocked a memory.
Right? Even early days Bullet Club Dave Finlay, when he really hopped in and took over from Jay White, he's wrestling a different style now, in my opinion, than I really associate with him. He hit at one point 3 dominators in a row and then 4 power bombs in a row to Yota Tsuji last night. So just absolute powerhousing last night. And again, doing that here against Brody King of all people.
Well, I did like that commentary pointed out that because Brody was so much bigger than Finlay, he started trying to power his way through, realized he couldn't do it, and then switched it up and tried to outspeed Brody a little bit. And I think that got him to the advantage where at the end, he was eventually able to use his power to win the match. And just to go to the end, Finlay was able to reverse a superplex attempt into a snake eyes. He literally lifted Brody off of the turnbuckles and then dropped him into them. And then he followed that up with a power bomb and an overkill, his finisher, for the win. So it was his speed that got him the advantage, and then he used the power to win. So just good storytelling. But I can't believe these guys didn't break a barricade.
He had, what's his name? Finlay had 2 huge barricade spots these last 2 nights. Last night against Tsuji was just graphic. And then again tonight, he really powered Brody into it. So it was.
So Brody powered him into it, and then he took a crossbody in the chair.
Yep.
So
they took advantage of their surroundings. Both of these guys wrestled a very strong, I don't want to say dirty match, but a nasty match.
Yeah, I love the announce that said that when Brody hit that crossbody, the stage shifted like an inch to the left.
Yep.
And I believe it. Like they were moving furniture like it was nobody's business.
Yeah.
So
at this count, with in terms of main card, we have AEW and New Japan at 1 apiece. As Mercedes went over Mina Shirakawa, and now Finlay going over Brody King. So 1-1.
Yeah. Also, I think if Brody wanted to, he could make a mint in Japan. He seems I'd never want him to leave AEW. I love him too much. He is definitely the type of guy that Inoki would have loved, I feel like, or any of those guys who used to run the promotions back in the day. He would have done so well in Japan back in the 90s, but I think he'd still do great there now.
AEW, I'm so sorry. New Japan is in dire need of a big old gaijin. They haven't had one in a long time. Basically, since Archer left, they haven't had that monster American or monster white guy. Yeah. I think Brody would be fantastic in that role. Personally, I've been a big proponent. I think Baron Corbin would be great in New Japan. I think he'd
100%.
Perfect over there.
If he split between there and TNA, he'd be so good because he'd be a huge fish in TNA, I think, and then in Japan, he just filled this huge gaijin role as well.
Yeah, so I would love to see him do that. I would love to see him fill that role. Before Brody, they were very much big on Bronson Reed over there, and then Bronson went back to WWE.
Yep.
So yeah, I would love to see Brody in that spot, but at the same time, I don't want to lose him out of AEW, so it's okay.
That's exactly how I feel. He would do wonders for himself over there, but please don't go. Yeah. Julia Hart needs you.
And we need him.
Yeah.
But just to finish up talking about this, David Finlay is in an interesting position because I think fans might have warmed up to him a little bit as leader of Bullet Club, but he is still definitely in an era that is a down period for Bullet Club.
Yeah, I don't even know what's going on with them right now. Like, I knew he was kind of the leader, but like, there's also the whole War Dogs part of it, so I don't know.
So basically,
that's a thing. Like, after Switchblade left, I knew it just became a mess, and I don't want to say I checked out, but it was too hard to follow tangentially the way I used to.
Basically, at this point, near the end of the Jay White era, it was sort of split between Bullet Club and House of Torture, which was like a subdivision of Bullet Club through Evil.
Went.
Yeah. House of Torture now is, I think, at this point, its own thing, officially or not. And the War Dogs are just, they're like the elite, that they are a subdivision of Bullet Club. And with, 2 of the War Dogs wrestled last night at Wrestle Kingdom.
Kid's a War Dog.
Yeah, Gabe Kidd wrestled tonight. What's his name? Kenta wrestled on the pre-show yesterday. So Bullet Club is
that he powered walked in.
Yeah. God bless
looks
him.
Like Chris Paul in that State Farm commercial.
Yeah.
I love Kenta, man. I miss him so much.
To quote a former member, Bullet Club is fine. David Finlay is fine in the role that he's in. But I know his contract is up. It is going to be coming up soon. I don't necessarily... I would be shocked if he left. Because at least in New Japan, he's the leader of Bullet Club. Unless he just really wants to leave Japan and go to the United States and wrestle anywhere, I think he's better off in Japan than trying to go to either AEW or WWE or TNA. So they balanced him out. He is the first ever global champion. He finally lost it last night to Yota Tsuji, and now he bounces back with a big win over Brody King. So
when did they make the global championship? Was that? I guess that was recent.
So Ospreay had turned the U.S. title into the UK title.
Right. Oh, and then that became...
And then Mox was wrestling him, and then it turned into a triple threat with Finlay, and then Finlay, they were like, fuck it, it's the global championship.
Okay.
No US, no UK, just global.
Yeah, I guess after the whole New Japan America thing kind of flopped, they were like, we don't really need a US title anymore. Yeah. But same lineage. Okay.
And they had gotten rid of the Intercontinental title in a move that everybody hated. So
yep. They combined it with what is now the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, right?
Yes.
Which, yes, because everyone hated that, getting rid of both of those beautiful belts. So I was there for that. That was...
I love Cody's neck tattoo as a championship, but I digress.
It really is the same thing.
Same shape and everything.
That was a terrible, terrible move. But speaking of somebody who went for that title last night, our next match saw Shota Umino face off against Claudio Castagnoli. Now, Shota had called out Moxley recently for a match at Tokyo Dome. I don't know if that was because Shota just hasn't really fallen in the line with the Death Riders or he wants to prove himself. Either way, Mox blew him off, deciding that Shota wasn't worth it or him even showing up at Tokyo Dome. So instead, he has sent his special emissary in Claudio to take care of business. The end of the match, after Shota kicked out of a Ricola bomb, Claudio went for a neutralizer, but Shota reversed it. And after a little back and forth, Shota was able to use a backslide to set up for and hit a Death Rider, which is really a paradigm shift he did with Claudio, for the win. So, James, this was fine. Claudio dominated most of it. He looked great. He's another guy who would do great in Japan as well, just because he can do everything.
To me, he's a dream G1 competitor. A dream G1er.
I mean, we see what he does in the Continental, so
hey, that's nothing in comparison. Come on. So obviously they're telling a story with Shota.
Yep.
Shota has not been able to win the big one. And commentary and the crowd is not into him right now, the way he is. And quite frankly, as somebody who has been following him with interest, I don't particularly know what you can do with him to get the crowd behind him. I feel like a heel turn is almost necessary. They're trying to turn him into Tanahashi Jr., and he's just not, the crowd is not biting.
Yeah. You could
Now,
tell.
Yeah. Beyond that, they are telling this story with him last night that in his main event against Zack Sabre Jr., he resorted to some dirty tactics. He wasn't listening to the rope breaks. He pushed his father, Red Shoes, away.
I read that, yeah.
Motherfucker.
How dare you disrespect Red Shoes? I don't even care if it's your dad. I know I go with my dad. I disrespect him all the time. But don't disrespect Red Shoes, no matter what.
We don't have issues with parental disrespect here at the pod. We just respect your referees, your senior veteran referees.
No, just Red Shoes.
Oh, God, of course.
And Aubrey. Everyone else.
Does WWE have a referee that it's like, no?
Charles Robinson?
You fucking care. Mini Nate.
I just love him. It's Little Nate. Get it right.
Yeah, Little Nate. My bad.
Well, he'll just hit you back.
So, but that goes into now this feud with the Death Riders. He's falling to the dark side. Commentary said it at one point. They asked the question, what's more important to you? Being liked or getting the win? And not succumbing completely to the dark side last night helped contribute to his loss to Zack Sabre Jr. He didn't push it hard enough. And now tonight, I mean, this match started with cheating. Claudio attacked him on the ramp before the entrance was even done. Before Shota's entrance was even done. He did not hold back, but he did go over on Claudio. And they are seemingly teasing him continuing that right now the most important thing to him is surpassing his mentor, Jon Moxley. So I don't necessarily think Shota is coming over to AEW anytime soon. I don't necessarily think Mox is going over to New Japan anytime soon.
Yeah, not full time at least.
But that is a story that will be developing, and I'm rooting for Shota. I'm rooting for Shooter. The kid has it. He's good. He's a good talent. He's a strong talent, and he's so young, and he's got such a good future ahead of him if they could figure out how to course correct with him. So I'm hoping they do, and we'll see. We'll see. But good win for him over Claudio. Claudio is a protected AEW talent. He's not undefeated by any stretch, but at the same time, he doesn't lose willy-nilly. So This is a big win for Shota. And I believe that lifts it up to New Japan 2-1 over AEW for the night.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah. And I was reading a lot about Shooter before coming into tonight, just because I was trying to catch up on what happened last night. And I wanted to see what was up with him, because I had heard there was a lot of people were having trouble, like in the crowd, like connecting to him or liking him and stuff. And I know appeasing Japanese crowds is a little different than appeasing American crowds, but I still found it interesting. And a lot of what I read was it's that he doesn't really have his own like personality, so to speak. Apparently a lot of what his moveset and a lot of what he did last night in his match against Zack Sabre Jr. was based off of mentors like Moxley, like you mentioned, but also like they try to combine like Tanahashi and Okada into him while almost low-key, I don't want to say like pushing him a la Roman Reigns, but he was almost just kind of dubbed like you're the next like ace, like big face of the company. And the fans almost seeming to be rejecting him because of the combination of all of these factors.
He's part of a class right now. Like I don't know if they've been. I apologize. I don't fully know if they've been dubbed like the new Three Musketeers.
Yeah, but they did mention that he was a member of three guys,
and it's him, Yota Tsuji, and Ren Narita. To a lesser extent, it's also Yuya Uemura, but it's those three in particular. And Tsuji has exploded onto the scene.
He looks cool.
Yoda's awesome. And Ren is filling a much easy. It's easier for him because he's filling in a heel spot. So it's easier to get hate than it is to get people to love you.
Yep.
So Ren, and not that I'm saying he's only in that position because it's such an easy position. He's running with it. But Yoda and Ren have been able to fill in very well. And they're trying to do the same with Shota, and he's just not that guy. That's not to say that what he brings to the table isn't good or great even, but Yoda Tsuji is Yoda Tsuji. Ren Narita is Ren Narita. Shota doesn't feel like Shota. He feels like mini Mox. He feels like mini Tana, mini. I don't know if I can say Okada, but mini. So
yeah, but he's taking bits of each of them,
yes.
And it's just like, be your own person.
And I know a lot of that is New Japan. They want a new Tanahashi. They want a new Okada. So they're pushing for it, but it's hurting him. It's like when WWE, I know we're not comparing them, but what?
They wanted a new John Cena, and Roman got screwed for a very long time.
Yeah.
He had to become this version of himself. Now people fucking love the dude. And we finally saw the talent that we always knew he had, but didn't want to root for.
Suppressed. Yeah.
Because, he was being shoved down our throats.
I mean, some of us were cheering him, but
yeah,
that's a different story.
You saw a lot of
I understood
why people.
I never questioned why they were booing him. I was just, it's like that old adage. What?
You're just being you.
Yeah. You know that old adage, if this guy's got 500 fans, I'm one of them. If he has one fan left, that's me. I'm the one. If he has no fans left, it's because I'm not breathing anymore. And that was me with Roman. But look, all things, I'm rooting for Shota. I think that there's still plenty of time to turn him around, but we got to be careful to not ruin the brand for this kid. So time will tell, but Yoda got the big win last night. Yoda was a guy who had gotten to the dance several times, but wasn't able to close the deal with the prom queen. That's kind of what's happening with Shooter. He's been to the big dance, but he's going home alone. So I hope that he's able to turn that around.
Yeah, and maybe, as you said, it does lead to him falling in line with the Death Riders to an extent.
I'd be fine with it.
At least into their ways of thinking, or maybe he just figures something else out. But it seems to me he needs to become his own person, and whether he has to figure that out as a face or heel remains to be seen. But good luck to him. I'm a fan of anybody that mocks Dub Shooter.
Absolutely. I will take Shota over Wheeler Yuta any day. And if you just need some time away, go on another little excursion, let's do it.
I saw somebody on Reddit say that it's like he might need another excursion, like not to America, but like DDT or something.
No, let him come to America. Like his first excursion was in England, and he benefited from it. But I think he would benefit from being around Mox at this point.
Well, I think the person's point was it wasn't even America. It was just like, don't go to AEW because then you're just still doing the same things you've been doing. Yeah. And it's like, you need to go out and become your own person, as I've been saying. So go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And figure it out there. And maybe it could work. Unless they do want to run this Death Rider bit. Yeah, I think that would work for him. But we'll see.
We shall.
All right, let's move on to our next match, which saw my man Konosuke Takeshita face off against my other man Tomohiro Ishii. This match was awesome. I called the Brody King David Finlay match slobber knocker. That was a lie. This was a fucking slobber knocker. This was a knockdown, drag him out slobber knocker. First thing I noticed, hey, look, it's Bryce Remsburg. Bryce flew all the way over just to ref this match.
He looks good in the uniform.
Yeah, it's a good look on him. Anyway, Takeshita had just won the Never Openweight Championship last night when there was a match for both that title and the AEW International Championship, and then he was defending both here, obviously, tonight against Ishii, and Takeshita was able to retain after shrugging off an insecurity to hit a huge elbow and a raging fire to keep Ishii down for 3. Dude, this was awesome. I loved every second of this. The Kenny Gabe Kidd match is going to steal all the headlines, as well it should. This was my favorite match of the night. I thought they died like 6 different times.
I won't go as far as to say it was my favorite match of the night, but like last night, this was the match that turned the show around. I think everything prior to this match was very solid, enjoyable in its own way. But with last night, when it was Takeshita versus Shingo Takagi, that's when the switch was flipped.
Yeah, first time.
Right? And we hit another gear. We were going full throttle. And same thing tonight. It was fun. It was enjoyable. We had stuff to compliment, but this match was next level.
The beginning was like we had put the coals and they started getting going, and then we threw a little gasoline on here, and now we're cooking with fire.
Absolutely,
roaring fire, or as I say, now we're cooking with gas.
Commentary even talked about it a little bit. Ishii is not known as a belt guy. He's not known as a championship hunter. He's just not really that guy. But if you're going to associate him with a championship in New Japan, it is the never open weight title.
That's what I know him for, is this.
Yeah. And these two guys were just so hard hitting. Commentary noted that Ishii's about to be 50. He's working just as well today as I'd say he was 5 years ago, or even 10 years ago. He's such a hard hitter. He brings so much to any match that he's in. And when you're in New Japan, it's not AEW rules where you assume that he's probably going to take the loss to the bigger talent. Here, he is a huge talent. So anything could have happened.
Especially because he's in AEW enough where him being the international champion isn't out of the question.
Absolutely. So Takeshita had the challenge in front of him, and he accepted it, and he passed with flying colors. This kid, again, he took on Shingo Takagi, one of the most popular New Japan talent there is. And he took him to the limit last night. That match was like, I don't know how much of Wrestle Kingdom you watched. Go watch it.
I saw as many finishes as I could. The finish for this one, it looked a lot like it, like just straight up beating the ever living fuck out of each other.
And that they did.
Strong style is not dead.
Not as long as Takeshita and Tomohiro Ishii are alive. So just fun matchup. Really happy for Takeshita. Just think about where Takeshita was a year ago.
Yeah, he was like it was like Kenny's happy-go-lucky friend almost.
I
guess before his heel turn he was.
Yeah.
And then he joined Don, and now he's this.
But even early days Don, he was spinning his wheels. He was there for Don. Don wasn't there for him.
Yeah.
Now the man is holding championships in two of the biggest companies in the world. And no matter where he goes, like commentary was discussing it, he's got 2 contracts. He's signed to both AEW and DDT, and now he's a champion in New Japan that he won last night and defended already successfully tonight. That means in 2025, we're going to see this man wrestle for at least 3 promotions. That's huge.
Dope.
God bless him. So great matchup. I love Takeshita. I love Ishii. And it just, my body hurts watching these matches. Like, they're just beating the shit out of each other.
Dude, there was a spot at one point where Ishii took a pile driver, then got German suplex, and then lariated it out of his shoes and kicked out at 1.
Oh, God.
I love that dude, man. I love these type of matches when they just go in and beat the piss out of each other for 15 minutes or whatever it was. Oh, this was 13 and a half minutes. Like, that's all I need from this title, from both of these titles, you know.
And speaking of these titles, and this title in particular, the international title being defended more than that in different companies, that's fantastic. What we wanted from the belt in the first place when it was first announced and first created. That's what we
all
wanted.
Atlantic.
Yeah, oh God. I mean, it wasn't bad, but international's better.
Yes. Especially because defending the All Atlantic Championship on the Pacific Coast felt weird.
That it did. So I'm happy to see it being AEW's travel title. And quite frankly, I think that is what it's necessary to differentiate it from the Continental title or the TNT title. Like, it needs something, because otherwise it's just a belt. So let it be the belt that gets defended in New Japan. Let it be the belt that lets it get defended in RevPro or wherever, whatever indie anybody's going to be working. But yeah, good showing. And this was like I said, everything from here just kept getting bigger, in my opinion.
Well, there's one match, but
wait, what was that?
I was going to say there's one match I don't think with it that continued that upward trajectory, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But yeah, dude, I cannot say enough good things about this match, but we'll be here all night if I do. So I'm excited to see Takeshita defend 2 titles now. And just all I want to say was I believe I had this. He's my guy from day one, and I was
you
I will continue to remind you about it.
And I bow down to your insight. He was a Rev guy from day one.
Oh man, he is the best. We'll see where. I'm curious to see where else he defends that title this year, because he'll defend it in DDT, he'll defend it in New Japan, he'll defend it in AEW. I'd like to see him get around somewhere else too, but we'll see.
Yeah.
The more the merrier with that international championship. But let's keep things rolling here as we got to a 3-way match for the vacant IWGP Tag Team Champions. These are the heavyweight championships. As we had Great Okan and Jeff Cobb of the United Empire face off against Tetsuya Naito and Hiromu Takahashi.
Hiromu. Yeah.
Damn, I thought I had got that one down. Of Los Ingobernables de Japón. And, of course, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, the Young Bucks, making their grand return to the Tokyo Dome. And, hey, Rocky Romero came out on commentary for this one.
He stayed there. He stayed there from this on.
Yes, but I think he said a sentence in this match. Also, the Bucks came out to their old theme, which I thought was pretty cool. Now, was this was their Bullet Club theme, or was this older than that? Because I kind of only half recognized.
I mean, admittedly, they were Bullet Club for so long that even I'm not 100% sure.
I guess it was like their early Bullet Club theme, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
But it was cool not hearing their new song.
Yeah.
Not that I dislike it, but the throwbacks are the best.
Yeah.
Towards the end of this match, I do want to mention Naito hit a Destino on Matthew, and Great Okan broke it up, because it then led to the spot later towards the end of the match where the Bucks hit an EVP trigger on Naito to get it back, and then Okan broke that up too.
Spoiler.
I wrote that note, and then I was like, okay, I'll talk about that later, but that actually led to the finish where Matthew then set up Okan for a Meltzer driver, and then Nicholas, instead of going to hit the
TK driver?
Oh, TK driver. Well, they called it the Meltzer driver on commentary, and that's why I wrote Meltzer by accident. But Nicholas, instead of going for the driver, actually did a springboard moonsault to the outside to take everybody else out before jumping back up on the apron and hitting said TK/Meltzer driver to pick up the win. And the Young Bucks are your IWGP Tag Team Champions again.
Once again. I am. So this match had a lot of changes made to it. Initially, Great Okan and Hinare, who were the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, were set to defend the belts against the Bucks. And then Hinare got hurt, the belts got vacated, and it was going to be Okan and somebody. He went with his United Empire teammate, Jeff Cobb, which made sense. And then in the 11th hour, Tetsuya Naito and Hiromu Takahashi got added to the match, and this became a triple threat.
Yeah, and then they had just won World Tag League recently too, right?
Yeah, and they wrestled each other last night at Wrestle Kingdom.
And Takahashi came out dressed like he was in the Masked Singer.
Yes, he did twice. He did that last night as well.
I mean, if you bring out something that big, you gotta use it multiple times.
Yeah.
That's not a one-time only thing.
It's an investment. You got it's paying itself back already. But
freaking giant Muppet.
So with all of the changes, and the moment it became a triple threat, I became more convinced that the Bucks were not winning. Because with another team in there, you could have the Bucks show up and not take the loss, but also not take your tag titles. But granted, New Japan and tag titles for years have not been a great combination. Quite frankly, they should forego the junior and heavyweight divisions for the tag titles, and it should just be tag titles at this point because they just don't have the teams to support it. But different topic, different day. The Bucks killed it. We haven't seen the Bucks wrestle in several months. Basically since the rise of the Death Rider story in AEW.
Yeah, since they lost their titles to Private Party.
Private Party. So I think it's been probably like 2 to 3 months. Happy to see them back. They were wrestling like the Young Bucks too. I know that story has been going around of like, oh, we were intentionally not wrestling well. We wanted people to think we sucked for what. I don't have the energy to get into that whole thing, but it was cool to see them be the Young Bucks again.
It was vintage Young Bucks, to borrow a line from Michael Cole there. But
Absolutely.
It was like they were hitting all of their typical spots. And I know at a certain point people can get annoyed at the fact that they're doing the same things all the time, but I missed it. I missed it in the New Japan ring. I missed their shit talking in a New Japan ring because those ring mics are so much louder. It took me back to when I started watching BTE and got into New Japan in the first place.
Controversial or not, I enjoy the Young Bucks. I like them as wrestlers. I like them as characters. You could argue, or there is an argument about how they're used, but I love the Young Bucks.
I will always defend them because they are the ones who got me into something other than WWE. Like New Japan first, but also Ring of Honor because they were there. And that led me to explore a little more of the indie scene and see more of it. So, and then that with, Cody going there helped. And that's how I learned about Kenny and Adam Cole and all of these different people that I now love and enjoy every week on Dynamite. And some of them are over in AEW, but I still enjoy them. So, without them, and I'm sure this is true for a lot of other people, without them, I don't know this side of wrestling, and I'm a completely different type of fan, or a completely lapsed fan.
And I respect the fact that you can feel that, and it's so real. Like for me, it's the same. I attribute what?
It's real to me, damn it.
I attribute it more to Kenny than the Bucks, but the Bucks were always part of the ride. They were always part of the ride. So.
I guess the three of them, because it was being the elite.
My first real exposure to New Japan was the Wrestle Kingdom where Kenny was challenging Okada. That was my first, wow, I'm watching New Japan. And of course, the Bucks were his cornermen. Of course, the Bucks were wrestling for the junior tag titles earlier in the night. So it's just, as long as I've been watching New Japan, as long as I've been watching AEW, it's the Bucks.
Yeah, I also think it helped that it coincide for me at least that Finn had just gotten NXT as well.
Yeah.
So like Finn's there, everyone's like, "Oh, Bullet Club, too sweet," and I'm like, "Whoa, what's that?" And then the Bucks and Kenny are becoming really popular and they're really cool, and it's all one big storm where NXT and the Bucks were just great at the same time. And now I'm here doing a podcast at 4:40 in the morning.
Thanks, Matt and Nick Jackson, EVPs of AEW.
Matthew and Nicholas.
But yeah, fun matchup. Lots of people that I'm not used to seeing wrestle. Like Takahashi is moving his way up out of the junior division. So you don't usually see him in heavyweight matches. The Bucks spent most of their tag run as juniors. It was more towards the back end that they became heavyweights, and
this is their only second heavyweight tag championship.
Yeah. And Naito was not a tag guy, especially around the time that they were going for the heavyweight tag titles. So that's not a matchup that you saw all that often, Naito interacting with the Bucks. And obviously, Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb, they as a team, they're newer. So this was a fresh matchup, and I think everybody kind of hit their spot. Jeff Cobb going for a Destino attempt at one point was hilarious.
What did commentary call it? A Cobstino?
Yeah. I thought that was great. I loved the assisted tornado DDT where Naito stepped off of Takahashi's foot to hit a tornado DDT. I think it was onto Cobb.
Yeah.
And it just fun matchup. Very interested to see where the Bucks go now as tag champs. I think this was a move more for AEW than it was for New Japan. Because again, I don't see the Bucks making multiple trips to Japan. And I think it's so that the Bucks have something shiny on TV for AEW, but Tony just doesn't want to put the AEW tag titles on them or the Ring of Honor tag titles on them. So this will be very interesting, especially considering where the rest of the elite are right now.
Yeah, and I guess we call it the current elite, but it's assuming the Bucks go back, and I did see on Twitter about them mentioning defending the titles over on HBO Max. Yeah, you have Okada with the Continental title still. Now you have the Bucks with some shiny new tag titles. Jack Perry, I don't know where he stands. We'll get to him in a minute, but that's interesting. But I do think, and I know it's not kayfabe, so I'm going to break it for a second. But Kenny did sign that contract with New Japan. He's going to be over there enough where I'm sure that the Bucks wouldn't mind going over with him every once in a while. So keep an eye. They're probably going to be at restaurants breaking kayfabe left and right. So don't narc on them. But I don't think that they will be there a lot, but they'll be there enough to defend the titles once or twice. I would have to check where Forbidden Door or when Forbidden Door is. But I don't think they'll hold them all the way till then. That seems like a long time.
Yeah.
But then again, they held them for a long. I mean, they're the junior tag titles, but they used to hold the junior tag titles for a really long time back in the day too.
Yeah.
And New Japan has experience with them letting them run around with their tag titles. So maybe they'll let them hold it for a bit. But Forbidden Door seems like a long time.
Forbidden Door is August. I don't think there is any way they're
not a chance.
August. Yeah.
Not a snowball's chance now.
No.
But yeah, so they'll lose them in a couple of months, and that's fine. But whenever Kenny gets announced next, don't be surprised if the Bucks get announced too.
The next big AEW show is February 15th. It's Grand Slam Australia.
Could lose them there.
Yeah. Theoretically, I'd agree.
That's not a bad trip for anybody in New Japan to make. And I think New Japan runs a couple of shows down in Australia a couple times a year, right?
So I would probably do it there a month plus, because again, it's February 15th. Not bad.
Yeah. Especially too, because I don't know how I get AEW is big enough to be going down there. And New Japan's big enough that they go down there. If you get a well-known enough tag team to go down on that show from New Japan, it'll help draw. And I think that'd be smart.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's keep things rolling here as we go to the IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship, as we see Yota Tsuji, who just won the title last night, off of David Finlay, face off against the scapegoat, Jack Perry. At the end of this match, Tsuji was able to kick out of a low blow and a slam from Perry after Perry almost sent Tsuji into the ref, causing that distraction. Both then missed knee strikes, but Perry was then able to land one, and he hit the ropes. Tsuji ducked the Larry, hit the ropes himself, and hit a spear, which has a name that I missed. I'm sorry.
I think it's a Gene Slam.
Thank you. Yes, he was able to retain his newly won title. James, this was the one I was saying had a little bit of dip in the action here. It was fine. I was also kind of trying to set this up a little bit, so I missed a little bit of it. The ending seemed good. I don't know. I for some reason I didn't really care that much. Maybe that's just on me. But Yoda Tsuji looks really cool. He's got a great look. He did kind of come out looking like Carmen Sandiego. Nobody steal that meme. I'm gonna have Matt do it in the morning. But yeah, look, he looks cool. You're saying he's one of these new young guys who finally got the big dub, and then he takes it over Jack Perry, who got booed a lot. Yep. So I guess good for him. He got really booed when he took the title and held it up before the match. So but I don't know. This one just didn't click with me personally.
Neither did it really for me as well. But like, it wasn't a bad match. I'm happy Yoda Tsuji got a second big win this weekend.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't, like, I feel bad saying it. I think it's a Jack Perry thing. Like, I don't dislike the kid that he's got go away heat with me. But I will say that I am kind of in a weird spot with him where it's like, you've got to be doing, I guess it is apathy, but he's got to be doing something really interesting for me to give a shit.
Yeah.
And I feel bad. I feel bad because I loved Jungle Boy. Like, it's not because I'm a Punk guy and it's like, oh God, you ruined AEW, or oh, you ruined CM Punk, blah, blah, blah. No, like, I don't give a shit about that. It's just more like something hasn't really been clicking with the scapegoat stuff. For a minute, it really was, but I feel like he's lost all momentum. And I'm shocked he hasn't joined the Death Riders yet. I think that is almost like the only lifeline they can give him. But even then, it's not like the Death Rider storyline is doing great right now in AEW TV. So
I think he started to kind of flounder when the Bucks left.
Yeah.
Like, I know he had this stuff with Garcia, and I didn't like hate it, but I didn't like uber pay attention to it either. And I guess a bunch of it happened on Collision. Boy, we're getting tired. So I kind of missed some of it, but he did get kidnapped. And I know he's been a little pissed at the Bucks lately. So hopefully the Bucks, having won these titles, do return and we get something out of that, because I do want to see how he reacts to the Bucks returning. I do want to see if that does lead him maybe to the Death Riders, because I think that would be a good spot for him, as you know, as you mentioned. Actually, I think as you mentioned when the Death Riders were formed. So I do have interest in him. It's just, I guess I only have interest in him playing off of other people right now.
That's where I'm at too.
Yeah, and it's just he's been just dead in the water because the Bucks left, and then he lost his title, and he's been off TV, to be honest, too.
Yeah,
so maybe that's kind of like,
He wrestled the California show for New Japan in Long Beach, and the Bucks helped him, but he rebuked the Bucks.
Right. Yes, I remember us talking about this the other week.
So I'm really hoping that come Wednesday there is a lot of story development there. We know Kenny's advertised for the show. I would really like to see the Elite on the show. Not necessarily fully interacting with him, but I would like to see the Bucks, the new IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, on the show. I would like to see Jack Perry on the show. And of course, we know Kenny and Okada are on a crash course.
Yeah, which I think has to be Wembley. I mean, they teased it for Wembley, so.
Yeah, well, no, not Wembley. Texas.
Oh, for Texas. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Texas.
I meant All In. I'm just so used to calling All In Wembley. I'm gonna have to start calling it Jerry World now.
I have not bought any tickets for All In or for anything, but I made a promise to myself a long time ago, years ago. If we were ever to get another Kenny Omega Kazuchika Okada match and it were to happen on American soil, I would go no matter where it was. So if they're building towards Kenny Okada 5, technically.
Get ready to learn Texan, boy.
Yeehaw.
Howdy.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. But as for this matchup, Jack Perry did everything. He didn't do anything wrong. It was a fine showing from him. Tsuji got another dominant win, in my opinion. And it's interesting to see Perry's repertoire, his move set. I know we're not supposed to say that word, apparently. Right? Evolve the way it has. Like, we're seeing Busaiko knees. That big drop that he hit near the end of the match, that's one of Claudio's moves. But I don't know. Time will tell how much more he's going to develop, how much more he's going to change. But I liked his entrance, too. I like the scapegoat goat head. It's creepy.
The scythe was awesome.
Yep.
That was cool.
So hopefully this kid can put it together. And if you're Yota Tsuji, God bless, because now you finally got the big win and you were able to prove it wasn't a fluke. You won the next night as well. So good for him.
Yeah, for Tsuji, hopefully, they gave you the ball. Hopefully he can go and run with it and do really well with this title. And like you said with Jack, he did nothing wrong in the ring tonight. Neither of them did. It wasn't a bad match. Like I said, I just couldn't get into it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And it was kind of in a cool down spot, I felt like. Now, granted, it probably should have went after this next match at a cool down spot, because Lord knows the main event could have needed it, but it's not how New Japan rolls. Double main, and
and boy,
it was a lot. All right, so let's get into that. This was the headliner of the night. Let's say it wasn't the main event, but it was the headliner.
Commentary themselves said every ticket that was sold that night was because of this matchup.
Yes, it was the returning Kenny Omega facing off against Gabe Kidd. First note: Bryce Remsburg was back for this match. Good for Bryce.
Good old Bryce. He was getting the shits from Bullet Club. They were, oh my God, they would not let this man have any peace.
And then he died. But we'll get to that in a second. First, before we even get into the match, James, Kenny's new themed entrance. It was created by a couple of the guys who did the Final Fantasy theme. I thought that was very clear in that. But how did you feel about all of it as our number one Kenny fan?
Loved it for New Japan. If he decides to bring it over to North America, I'd prefer it, I guess, for like pay-per-views and big matches. I love Battle Cry.
Yeah.
I also do love what is it? Devil's Reign? Is that what it's
called?
One,
his old New Japan one?
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of it. That was also always really cool though.
But I very much enjoyed it. I thought his entrance was awesome in general. Like, I thought he looked like $1 million. I love the Omega, like
cut the cutout in his shirt.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool. And I just like everybody, I was terrified coming into this matchup for him. Diverticulitis is nothing to scoff at. I'm mature enough. I'm smart enough to accept the fact that if they were booking him for the match, he was medically cleared enough to do it. They weren't taking a risk and saying, let's see how it goes out there. So the fact that he was able to wrestle the match, the fact that it was going to happen, I had faith that he'd be fine. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to freak out every time his midsection is hit.
Yeah.
And boy, did he fucking get his midsection hit tonight.
Oh yeah, they worked that over, and that worked me over. So
yep. I was a complete mark in this matchup, to the point that there were points I had to look away.
Yeah. And I imagine some of those points were when guys were getting busted open. We had Gabe Kidd get split open when Kenny powerbombed him over the barricade and through a table in the announcer area that Kidd himself had set up. I thought he missed. He hit the back one because there were two next to each other, and he hit the back one. I don't know if he was supposed to hit both. Thank God he at least hit the back one. Kenny then took out a group of people with one of his Terminator dives from the ring over the barricade into the announcer area, which also I think is how Bryce Remsburg ended up dying. And then the match went off the rails for a couple of minutes because there was no ref. Omega got cut open when Kidd, who had hit him a bunch with chairs to get him down for a minute, suplexed him through a table on the outside and then broke a piece of that table off and hit Kenny over the head with it. Unprotected headshot, I might add. And Kenny either got busted open hard way or he forgot how to gimmick himself because he was gushing buckets of blood.
Crimson mask.
It was brutal. Kid then threw a bunch of chairs in the ring, and there was more unprotected headshots before Red Shoes got out there and finally cleaned everything up. But there was a good 10 minutes there where it was just borderline deathmatch levels of violence.
Messy. I love it.
Anyway, to get to the end of this, after Kid kicked out of a V trigger, a power bomb, and then another V trigger at one.
Yeah.
He then collapsed in the middle of the ring and went down to his knees. So he
Kenny?
double flipped. No, Kid did.
Oh, Kid.
So then Kid double flipped off Kenny and screamed at him to just do it. So Kenny grabbed his hands and hit the Golden Lover V trigger type of thing before hitting the one winged angel for the win. We then saw a shot of, as the two guys were leaving, of Tanahashi crying on Japanese commentary. That's how good this match was. So, James, my question to you is, who was crying more, you or Tanahashi?
I definitely Tana, because I was not crying. I was relieved. My lower third said that 397. That's how long it's been since Kenny's last match. 397 days.
It's a lot for those of you who can't keep track.
I have been waiting, and I am at peace because my guy, the best ever, is back. I've seen Gabe Kidd before. I have never been overly impressed with him, but I've recognized the talent. I recognize that he's good. This match was a whole nother level. And I think that's what we're going to see from Kenny moving forward. I think we're going to see a Kenny Omega who is the final boss. I think we're going to see a Kenny Omega who is going to have banger after banger after banger. But he's going to make these kids look fucking good in the process. And that's what this was. This was a weird matchup. We talked about it before the show started. We talked about it early on. The crowd was booing Kenny. They were cheering the quote-unquote hometown kid and Gabe Kidd, who was defending, or in his eyes, he was defending New Japan.
To the point, he had the New Japan logo on the other side of his trunks.
Yep.
He even broke out a couple of Inoki moves. I wrote them down. He had a Cobra twist after Kenny dropped him after that first one-winged angel attempt, and then he even hit an Inzaguri at one point. So, yeah, he was, and commentary was selling the hell out of it to a point where you made a reference to it earlier. They were debating the merits of the Continental Classic versus G1.
It was hilarious. It was truly hilarious. That this match caused so much division between AEW and New Japan, at least in kayfabe. I think it's interesting because Kenny coming back for his first match in nearly 400 days, not being the babyface is a bit of a surprise, which is probably why the argument that Kenny should have returned to AEW first has merit. But doesn't matter. This match was fantastic. Kenny hit all of the spots. He hit the tope on the outside. He V-trigger. Dude was getting body shots with chairs. Like, there was nothing that was held back in this matchup. So if there's any question as to Kenny's health, if there's any question as to Kenny's capabilities, if there's any question as to what Kenny can handle, I think all of them were answered. I don't think there should be any fears. I don't think there should be any doubts. We've got Kenny, by God, Omega back. So these two absolutely delivered. Kenny, knowing he never went into heel territory. Maybe he did once when he was asking for help with his hip after an outside dive and he's just hurting and he was asking for ice or help. And then when the hand took too long, Kenny pushed him away and kicked him down. And that was the most heelish I think that he got. But he knew to play the antagonist when the crowd was cheering Gabe Kidd. And that just speaks to how good Kenny is and being able to pivot and knowing how to change that up.
I knew he was working me, but I was a little concerned about that hit just because
yeah.
nobody fucking caught him on that dive.
Yep. That dive, we both were watching, but we kind of just stayed to ourselves to watch it because that's how we do, because we know we're going to talk about it here. That dive, I think, was the only time I was like, holy shit, did you see that?
It was that, and then when Kenny started bleeding, and I texted you, I was like, I think Kenny forgot how to blade.
Oh my god. I went to the school of Eddie Guerrero and John Cena.
Two Tylenol and a blade, but that was worse than that.
This was a bloody affair. But Kenny brought his A game. I can't be shocked. Whenever Kenny wears his braids, I know he's bringing out the cleaner. I know he's bringing out the best bout machine, and he did. So the only time I got worried was after he built up the offense, hit the V trigger, and then went for the one-winged angel, but then collapsed under the one-winged angel.
Yeah,
that was the only time that I thought I hope I'm being worked, but I don't know.
I think once that was when Kid put in the Cobra Twist, and I was like, all right, he's fine.
Yeah, but even then, there's that part of my brain that's like, okay, they're covering now.
Yeah, it's he's now in Daniel Bryan territory or Bryan Danielson territory, where like we're pretty sure he's working, but the medical history is always going to make us a little nervous.
Yep. And you know what's fucking crazy? There was never a point in Brock's return to WWE where I was just like, oh god, the diverticulitis, he's fucked. That had to be rough. But with Kenny, it's going to happen until the day he retires.
It's weird with Brock because he won the title while he had not the WWE title, the UFC title. I know. While he had diverticulitis. So I never knew how like dangerous it could actually be, just because I was like, I had like Brock won the title while he was sick. I didn't realize it was that type of sick until Kenny got it. So I mean, it just makes Brock look all the fucking more of an animal. But I mean, yeah, Kenny. I think my only thing with Kenny now is I think, yes, he's 100% in the ring. He can do everything he used to, even though he said he was going to change it up a little. He clearly didn't.
Nope.
But do you think he will be wrestling a full schedule? Because he certainly isn't going to do this every night, but I certainly don't think he can hit every one of his big spots if he's wrestling even every other week.
So,
or do you just think he'll just be final boss? I'm only doing the big ones, just pay-per-view type of stuff.
I want 75% of that. I think Kenny needs to be treated as the ace of AEW that he always should have been presented as. I know it got muddied with Moxley, and that's not a knock on Mox because Mox is probably the heart and soul of AEW, but Kenny being the ace should have always been his presentation. And things got very muddied for him over the years. Turning heel, being so closely associated to the Bucks, being so closely associated to either the tag division or the trios division. He never really had that run, even when he was world champion, where this is the best bout machine, Kenny Omega.
I think a lot of that had to do with his health, too.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm absolutely positive you were 100% correct on that. But now that, by all accounts, he seems to be healthy and able and capable, and clearly capable of putting on matches like this, let him wrestle pay-per-views and maybe one Dynamite in between.
Yeah, like the big ones.
Yes. Like on this new Dynamite schedule or on this new pay-per-view schedule that AEW has, which is basically a pay-per-view a month or a pay-per-view every month and a half, have Kenny wrestle one Dynamite in between. You could get away with it. It's not a TV business anymore for AEW.
Yeah. And he can tag too if you really want to protect him. Like, it's not that big.
But he needs to feel special because this was special. New Japan presented this as special. New Japan presented this as the money match of the night. The reason fans tuned in, the reason fans bought tickets was this matchup. And that's what AEW needs to present Kenny as. AEW fans are showing up to arenas for Kenny Omega. AEW fans are turning on TBS or TNT or Max for Kenny Omega. So I hope that's the case. But in terms of tonight, in terms of this return, thank God. I feel like I have reasons to be excited for professional wrestling again.
Yeah. Plus, I think you're also, that weight was lifted off your shoulders too, seeing him go through all of it as well. So you're definitely going to sleep better tonight.
Like a baby, a one-winged baby.
Until you have to go and do the New Japan show tomorrow.
Sorry, New Japan fans. I am not covering New Year's Dash. Every year, the same thing happens. Nothing. Main event is important, and that's it. So, no, I'm not covering New Year's Dash. Enjoy it. I'm not.
James will do a short on Monday. Maybe. All right. Speaking of main events, let's get to that match as we saw Zack Sabre Jr. face off against Ricochet for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship.
I too love Triple H versus Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 18.
I could see douchebag Ricochet was able to make it across the Pacific as he attacked Sabre before the match. Kinda. I mean, the bell hadn't rung, but then he did it and the bell immediately rang. So still a dick. Anyway, after Ricochet missed a 630, Zack bounced up and hit a massive PK, followed by a Zack driver, but Ricochet was able to weakly kick out of it. Sabre went for another one, but Ricochet countered that into a roll-up, forcing Zack to kick. Ricochet then landed 3 closed fist right hands right in front of Red Shoes, but commentary was like, Red Shoes usually lets those go. But after the third one, he was like, no more, or I'm going to DQ you. And then Ricochet went for the Spirit Gun. However, Zack countered it with a flying submission into an arm bar, and then he got the other arm, rolled Ricochet over with both arms behind his head.
It was gnarly.
And just continued to wrench back on the two of them. He forced Ricochet to verbally submit. After the match, Sabre grabbed the mic, thanked Ricochet for the match, went on to say that New Japan is the best wrestling company on earth, and he said the future of New Japan is very bright, but the future of New Japan is also fucking orange, referencing the Mighty Don't Kneel. He then hyped up the rest of TMDK and then thanked the crowd, and we went off the air. So, yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head with the Triple H Chris Jericho thing. This was a good match. I actually really did enjoy it. It was obviously much more technical than the match before. It wasn't nearly as spectacular with all the blood and the violence, but it was still cool. You got the high-flying parts of Ricochet you wanted. You got the submission stuff from Zack Sabre Jr. you wanted, but a lot of this was just a lot of very good technical striking.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing a lot recently that Zack has added a lot more of that to his repertoire as he's moved up the ranks in New Japan to now champion, because you can't just be the submission guy and be champ. And this being my first exposure to Sabre Jr. since he has made that transition and added to his moveset, I'll say it, no qualms, but he has added to it, and he's a completely different wrestler. I really enjoyed this version of Zack Sabre Jr. Completely different than the guy I saw Bryan Danielson wrestle at Forbidden Door last year. So, look, it's going to get lost in the sauce, but I still really like this match.
Yeah, no, I think the match was fine. It's a bummer, and I was talking to you about this before we went on air. I just feel bad for Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah,
the guy made history last night as a Gaijin champion, walking in and retaining. That was huge. Very happy for him. And then he made history again tonight as the first man to do back-to-back shows at the Tokyo Dome, walking in as champion and walking out as champion. That not just as a Gaijin, but anybody. There's been no New Japan IWGP champion who has accomplished that. And both of his main events just felt like duds. Like last night, it's just the match itself was fine. It went too long, and I feel bad calling it a dud, but it wasn't a Wrestle Kingdom Tokyo Dome main event. And I'll say it here too. Kenny or no Kenny, this didn't feel like a Tokyo Dome main event. It felt like a strong match.
Yeah.
It felt like a fun match. It didn't feel like this is main eventing the Tokyo Dome.
I will say, when they had Ricochet come out and challenge Zack, I was just like, oh, this will be a fun match, thinking it would be not the Tokyo Dome.
Yep.
And then they announced it for this pay-per-view. I thought, initially I saw Tokyo Dome, and I thought it was a Wrestle Kingdom main event. I was like, oh, God, no.
Yeah.
And then I saw it was main eventing this. So I was like, okay. But I didn't realize. And then I was just like, wait, it's still a Tokyo Dome.
Yep. It's still a
Is this
big
gonna
deal.
deliver? And then they announced Kenny. I was like, oh, these poor bastards.
Yep. I feel bad for both of them, for Ricochet, for Zack, but Zack especially. Again, fun match, fine match. But
Still a 4-star range, I thought. Like low 4, maybe a 4. But like
maybe I got
enjoyed it more than everyone else. But
yeah.
I don't know. I really like Zack. I'm trying to like this new version of Ricochet. And I mean that in a good way. Like I think it's gonna be fun to see this new like
School shooter Ricochet.
Yeah. So you can call him, yeah. Yeah, I think he's gonna be fun. And I enjoyed. Ricochet called him a motherfucker a couple of times.
Yeah.
Like there were parts of this match I really enjoyed.
The best part of the match was near the end when he called him a motherfucker, and then Zack was like, it flipped a switch in Zack where he started cursing him out, and he's just like, "You're back in New Japan, mate." And and then Ricochet was just like he mockingly called him mate back, and I'm like, oh God, this was.
And then Ricochet paintbrushed him, and Zack looked at him and slapped the taste out of his mouth.
God, if this was middle of the show, I would have enjoyed it a lot more.
Yeah.
And again, I don't even blame Kenny and Kid. It's just it wasn't a Wrestle Kingdom main event.
The one time where Wrestle Kingdom's working against the rating instead of for it.
Absolutely. New Japan. It finally happened. New Japan has great talent on its hands right now. Yota Tsuji, Ren Narita, Shota Umino, when he's healthy again, Yuya Uemura. We are seeing the ascension to heavyweight for Hiromu Takahashi. You have Gaijin, like, it's weird. You know me, and I feel like I'm going to say something that's going to be very off-brand for me. You know I love technical wrestling. Zack Sabre Jr. as your world champion going into and coming out of Wrestle Kingdom feels fucking weird. It does not feel right. But I'm happy for him. But
like I said, I like this version of Zack. He's not just the technical, I mean, he's still the technical wrestler, but like he's not just a submission guy. He didn't spend 20 minutes just trying to keep Zack Sabre Jr. keep Ricochet grounded. Like you probably would get or think of him trying to do. He went up there and he tried to fight Ricochet and legitimately slapped the shit out of him a lot and hit him with drivers and powers and a lot of European uppercuts. Yeah. It's like he's striking a lot more, and I think it makes him a much more entertaining wrestler because he's still got that massive threat of being a submission guy. So, but I get why it's a little weird. Yeah. I think just because we have looked at Zack one way for so long that if you don't watch New Japan every week, I don't even know if they do weeklies, but if you don't watch it all the time, and I know you keep up with it, but I'm sure you don't watch it like you watch AEW, WWE. Yeah. It's hard to probably see him in this new light that he's being presented in. So I'm here for it. I like this version of Zack, and I agree with you. I feel a little bad that this was the hand he was dealt for these two shows because I feel like he deserves more.
I'd agree.
I feel like if he had gotten more, you'd probably feel a little differently coming out of this weekend about him still being champ after these 2 days.
If last night's main event was 10 minutes shorter and tonight's main event was 10 minutes longer, I think it would have done wonders for him.
Yeah, tonight was 20:57. I heard last night's was like 40.
Yeah, 40 plus.
So I don't have it on me, but Yeah, I heard it was far, far too long last night.
Yeah. So bottom line, New Japan has been in a very interesting place. And they have this young talent that they need to start relying on. Because the days of Tanahashi, the days of Naito, the days of Okada, they're gone.
Kenny's not going to be there every show.
Yeah, he's not going to be there regular. So Gabe Kidd, he fucking delivered. Get ready to push him. Get ready to push him as a top gaijin. Have him. I've been saying that Dave Finlay, his Bullet Club feels weird. Have Finlay and Kidd fight for control of Bullet Club.
That'd be fun. People are saying after tonight, Gabe Kidd has a blank check wherever he wants to go.
And in my opinion, he should.
Yep.
I think he's gonna stay in New Japan, quite frankly, because I don't mean to put disrespect on him, but like I don't think he would rise up in AEW or WWE. But I think
the way he fought tonight, it seems like he wants to stay, or that storyline kind of goes out the fucking window.
Yep, that would be hilarious. First contract offer from AEW, he takes it. He's like, Tony Khan's the best. First media scrum, he's hugging him. It would be amazing. But no, they need to push Gabe Kidd. They need Yota Tsuji finally winning the global championship. He needs to get pushed to that main event more. Shota, God, somebody help him. But they can do it.
Talent's there. He needs to find that character.
Ren Narita, House of Torture is House of Torture, but I think Ren could transform it into something more formidable that Evil couldn't. Take advantage of the toys you have right now. And I think New Japan can rebuild because they've been, due to the pandemic, due to COVID, due to a lot of things, they have been struggling for a long time.
It's like middling at best, probably.
Yes. So by all means, you've got some momentum. You've got talent. Fucking run with it. Run with it. But we'll see. Tomorrow's going to be a big indicator of where things move forward. Somebody's going to attack Zack Sabre Jr. I will put $5 on it right now.
Yep, $5 American.
$5 American that somebody's going to attack Zack Sabre Jr. and that's going to be his first challenge for the next New Japan event. I hope it's exciting. But that was Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's my first New Japan pay-per-view in a long time, excluding Forbidden Doors. I think the last Wrestle Kingdom I watched, Jericho was in it. It might have been the one he fought Kenny.
Jesus. No, that was actually, like 7 years ago.
It's been that long. I might have watched Kenny Ospreay. I might have watched that. Okay, but I think I only I think I had you text me to tell me when Kenny Ospreay started.
That's actually hilarious.
I was like, I'm going to be off.
That sounds right.
That or I just went back and watched it later. But I haven't watched New Japan pay-per-view in a really long time because they start at 3 o'clock in the morning. This one started at an hour I can do because I would probably be up to this point anyway. And I very much enjoyed it. It was very accessible for somebody like me because there was a lot of AEW talent that I know, and a lot of Japanese talent that I know too. So I enjoyed it in that regard. I enjoyed a lot of the matches. Obviously, Kenny and Gabe Kidd is already a match of the year candidate, and we're friggin' 5 days into
5 days in, baby.
By the time it was on, it was 5 days. I loved Ishii and Takeshita, and it was my favorite match on the card just because I have to exclude Kenny and Kidd. That's a different planet.
Takeshita's your guy, Kenny's my guy. It feels right.
And I just everything on this card, except really, like I said, the Perry match, it hit for me. Yeah. So, and then also Athena got hit in the head with that baseball bat. Holy fuck, that was so good. That was a swing and a half. Sada Uro. But I think, James, the one question I have coming out of this, just in terms of the bigger picture, I saw somebody say on the live thread over on Square Circle that this was more of a show for Japanese audience to become more acquainted with people from AEW mainly, but CMLL too, but for AEW mainly. Do you think that it did a good job for that and will help draw some Japanese eyes or some more eyes, Japanese eyes to AEW?
We can hope. I think there is already a perception of what AEW is to New Japan fans, and I think they know what to expect from AEW. I think the fact that
AEW is just the place that steals all New Japan's talent.
apparently you're sounding like Dylan.
Yeah.
I think the fact that Kenny's back will be a big draw for New Japan fans. I think the fact that the Bucks have the tag titles will be something that draws interest from New Japan fans. Overall, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that statement as much as I think this was a very coordinated multi-company show. And New Japan wanted to prove that they could bring all of these different houses together. And they did. I would have liked a little bit more of a CMLL presence.
Yeah, it was really just the beginning.
Yeah, it was just really the beginning. I would have loved to see their championship on the line. I would have loved to see a couple of things, but baby steps. Baby steps. I think Mercedes and Mina was one of the more fun matches of the night.
Yeah.
So Stardom got good representation. If anybody else was Ring of Honor champion, it would have been nice to see the ROH title defended. Because that's an old Ring of Honor New Japan tradition. The ROH title being defended at Wrestle Kingdom was a thing for a very long time.
Yeah, I remember.
So I would have loved to see the ROH title be represented, but again, I'm okay. It's actually kind of shocking that Jericho wasn't on the show, all things considered.
Yeah, a little bit. King of Tokyo. Imagine he was doing a King of Tokyo bit.
Jesus Christ. I don't even know who I would have put him against. Shota couldn't have afforded another loss.
Yeah. I was trying to think of like if you do like an older person or you want to try to put somebody over with it, but either way.
Yeah.
Blah.
Blah.
Yeah. I did not need Jericho on this card.
Yeah. But
so
it's okay. He's holding the ROH title hostage.
It was the Pure Championship. They could have wrestled on the pre-show.
Honestly, a great fucking question.
Or they should have threw Commander in the fucking Lucha match. He's the TV champ, ain't he?
Yes.
Yeah, I would have threw him. I would have threw him in the Lucha match.
I did
find that a little weird that it was just what you call it, CMLL, but they didn't get anywhere else on the card. So
Lee Moriarty, by the way, is the Pure champion.
Okay, he is still Pure champ. I wasn't 100%.
That would have been great, actually. Lee Moriarty would have been great here.
Yeah, one of those two guys would have been really good just to get a little more Ring of Honor representation because it was just in the pre-show where they were represented. So
yeah,
but I agree with you that this took a lot of people to come together and put this on. It was Tony Khan, it was Tanahashi, I'm assuming, as president of New Japan, Bushiroad just in general,
Rocky Romero.
Yeah, Rocky definitely probably had a huge role to play in this. Whoever gave the okay for Mercedes to win the RevPro title over there in Britain, like a lot of people had to be on a lot of phone calls and a lot of Zooms to make this happen. And I thought that turned out to be a very, very good show.
I agree.
Good job by them. I'm sure Inoki's very proud that they were able to get all these people together because Lord knows he was always trying to do something like this like every other month, at least according to Meltzer back in the day.
My thing is, if I'm New Japan, do I want to do Wrestle Dynasty as a follow-up to Wrestle Kingdom every year? Because there is a real risk that you're diluting Wrestle Kingdom with Wrestle Dynasty. But if their goal is to bring in more Western eyes, I know from what I read, I got to double check the numbers. This was the most tickets they've sold to non-Japanese attendees since pre-COVID.
Yeah, I read that too. I think it was a Meltzer tweet.
So that's big. That's big. That is a huge win. So,
do you know what I always love, by the way, before we go? The Tokyo Dome is so big. Like, you see the upper deck and it looks empty as hell, and they probably still have like 60,000 people.
I know. It's disgustingly big.
Like no one goes to no one goes, or not that many people go to baseball games. Like what goes on there?
But you know what? If they need it, they've got it.
That's true.
If they need the space, they've got it.
All right, one last thing before we go. Did you see Chuck Taylor's Twitter account during?
My biggest regret is that I didn't follow it enough, because I did see some of it. Whose login did he steal?
He got Rocky's. Oh, why?
Rocky.
Friggin' Twitter's not loading it for me. He tweeted out, "I got Rocky's Twitter login. Where's the whiskey?" And just went crazy for a while. Is not loading for some stupid reason. I think he deleted all of them.
He does tend to do that, because
it looks like he deleted all of them. That's a shame. He was talking about how he had defeated both Zack Sabre Jr. and Ricochet in PWG, and he's like, I used to be good. He was like, good. I think he also said, what's Ricochet's real name?
Trevor.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, Trevor's breaking out Dustin moves. Wow, nice." After he got mentioned on commentary.
I loved when Rocky brought up, "Oh, I want to talk about my best friends." Nobody here on commentary, but Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, Chris Statlander, who, if they shadow bring her back in, I'm going to be both super frustrated and also totally for it.
Yeah, there needs to be an apology, but also she tweeted out that she was on her way for like a mini surprise, and everyone thought she was going to Japan, and I think she just adopted a dove or something. Chuck also tweeted out that he thought they recast Shota because he has put on like 30 pounds of muscle since the last time they wrestled.
That's really funny.
And what was the other? He had another good one, but he was just all over the place tonight. I'm so upset he deleted them, because
Reddit, I think, got them.
Reddit got a bunch of them. They definitely got the one about him beating Zack and Ricochet in PWG. So go on Reddit, find them. They're amazing. Chuck, you should have left them up. I miss him so much. He was my favorite. All right. On that note, I would like to thank everybody so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. We'd appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. If you liked the video, let us know that you enjoy what we're doing. We'll do more of it. That might even mean more New Japan, but time differences. It's 5:30 here, or it's about to be.
Wait, hold on. Funny tweet
from Chuck.
No, it's Kyle Fletcher. It's a picture of his TV, and it's Takeshita holding up both belts, and he says, "Goat ×2, suck eggs, Orange Cassidy." And then Orange responds, "Kyle, no."
I have found the link of Chuck Taylor's tweets if you would like me to read them.
Yes.
Okay, so Chuck's first tweet: Rocky gave me his New Japan login. Where's the whiskey? Ichiban, sweet boy, holy shit, how did I not name myself that? Sassy Lucha, Jesus, wow. Hechicero has a very sexual wrestling style, and velvet pants, he's got to be a pervert. That was one of my favorites. Holy shit, TLC plays Shibata to the ring. I wrestled Tanahashi in Japan, and Big Sweaty Mike in Evansville, Indiana. What a career I had. Tanahashi wants to speak to the manager about 5 more minutes. I could have had the Fast 5 song for my entrance music in New Japan. Glad to see the New Japan cameramen are still world-class perverts. Gonna get a dragon belly tattoo like Brody. Did they recast Shota? The guy's like 200 pounds heavier than the dude I knew.
The Fast 5 tweet, by the way, that is absolutely about Mina Shirakawa's entrance, because I've been saying it's Danza Kuduro.
Yeah, no, it is 100% Danza Kuduro. Where's all the hot guys on this show? Oh shit, Takeshita is here. Never mind. Tweeted within like 30 seconds of each other. Ishii told me he watched that dumb grenade video I did, and then he acted it out. You should have seen it. It was cute as fuck. Nobody kicks out of the Falcon Arrow. He actually, I think, said what the fuck first, and then he said nobody kicked out of the Falcon Arrow, but I guess I missed that one. Ha ha ha, fucking Rocky. I know your password to everything now. I'm going to hack you. Do you think I could beat up Jeff Cobb? I'd look cool with Great O'Khan hair. Very cool to see the young lions that were there when I was being in big spots at the Dome. That's the only real tweet I'll do, probably. Jungle Boy has really lovely hair. I don't know if you know this, but Gabe Kidd is legitimately a crazy person. Kevin Ortega is my former tag partner. I think he was pretty drunk by this point. Wow, fuck yeah. Yep, Kenny still rules. He's from Paducah, not Las Vegas, like in reference to Ricochet. Can you believe me and Zack Sabre have never kissed? I beat both of these guys for the PWG title. I used to be good. And he finished it off with, wow, Trevor Dean doing Dustin moves. So just absolute masterclass of tweeting from one Chuck Taylor.
Oh, God, made the night so much better.
That was the r/hockey Super Bowl thread of Wrestle Kingdom. just an absolutely beautiful read along to go along with that show. But to finish this one, as I was saying, we might do more New Japan stuff. Nah. If something big happens.
Yeah, big stuff. We'll be there.
Yep. Otherwise, we will be back here on Monday night, which by the time, for those of you who are watching us when you wake up, will be tomorrow for the first Raw on Netflix. So be sure to subscribe so you can see that. We'll be back on Wednesdays for AEW Dynamite, Impact Zone on Thursdays. Who knows if Producer Boy is going to start doing Friday nights now? I don't know where that came from.
Didn't have that on my bingo board. I think it's entirely because Tippy won.
Yeah, probably. And no one was around to do it.
Right.
But yeah, we'll be doing plenty of shows, so be sure to keep an eye out. Who knows? Maybe we'll get Chad back for our NXT.
He's saying he's teasing he'll be back. And
yeah.
I will flip a shit if he does.
For those of you who want to follow us on social medias and you're here on YouTube, you can check us out on all the stuff in the links in the description below. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, there's Blue Sky. I forgot to put the link there. I will hopefully do it when we're done, unless I forget. Just search Mark It Down on Blue Sky. You'll find us. No problem there. For those of you who are on one of our other platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, and you want to follow us on any of the stuff, Twitter is at @MarkItDown_pod. Instagram is at @MarkItDownPod. And then YouTube is youtube.com/MarkItDown3665. James, do you have anything before we go to bed?
Thank you guys for being with us this weekend, this week. 2025 is going to be big for the pod, and we're very happy that you're coming along for the ride. We are very excited for Monday Night Raw. Yeah,
a lot of new projects as we're getting to a lot of new stuff with wrestling, just, as a whole, switch to Raw, the SmackDown going to 3 hours. Keep an eye out when we start, by the way, for Raw, because apparently, the length of the show is going to be variable, according to Triple H.
I'm hearing that Monday is going to be more than 3 hours.
Whoa. All right, so you guys have fun with that.
No, you are first one, you're in.
Don't have Netflix. Can't help. Sorry, buddy. And on that disappointment, for James DeSanti and Eric Grisanti, Producer Boy in the background, who I think fell asleep when we started. Yeah, my name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching us here at the Mark It Down podcast. Have a good day, everyone.